The Book of the Damned, by Charles Hoyfort, Chapter 17a. The vast dark thing that looked like a poised crow of unholy dimensions. Assuming that I shall ever have any readers, let him, or both of them, if I shall ever have such popularity as that, note how dim that bull-black datum is at the distance of only 2 chapters. The question, was it a thing or the shadow of a thing? Acceptance either way calls not for mere revision but revolution in the science of astronomy. But the dimness of the datum of only 2 chapters ago, the carved stone disk of Torbs, and the rain that fell every afternoon for 20, if I haven't forgotten, myself, whether it was 23 or 25 days, upon one small area. We are all thumbsons, with brains that have smooth and slippery, though corrugated, surfaces, or that all intellection is associative, or that we remember that which correlates with a dominant, and a few chapters go by, and there's scarcely an impression that hasn't slid off our smooth and slippery brains of Leverrier and the planet Vulcan. There are 2 ways by which irreconcilables can be remembered, if they can be correlated in a system more nearly real than the system that rejects them, and by repetition and repetition and repetition. Vast black thing like a crow poised over the moon. The datum is so important to us, because it enforces, in another field, our acceptance that dark bodies of planetary size traverse this solar system. Our position, that the things have been seen, also that their shadows have been seen. Vast black thing poised like a crow over the moon. So far it is a single instance. By single instance, we mean the negligible. In Popular Science, Volume 34, page 158, Service tells of a shadow that Schroeter saw in 1788 in the Lunar Alpes. First he saw a light. But then, when this region was illuminated, he saw a round shadow where the light had been. Our own expression, that he saw a luminous object near the moon. That part of the moon became illuminated, and the object was lost to view, but that then its shadow underneath was seen. Service explains, of course. Otherwise he'd not be Professor Service. It's a little contest in relative approximations to realness. Professor Service thinks that what Schroeter saw was the round shadow of a mountain in the region that had become lighted. He assumes that Schroeter never looked again to see whether the shadow could be attributed to a mountain. That's the crux. Conceivably a mountain could cast a round shadow, and that means detached shadow in the lighted part of the moon. Professor Service could, of course, explain why he disregards the light in the first place. Maybe it had always been there in the first place. If he couldn't explain, he'd still be an amateur. We have another datum. I think it is more extraordinary than vast thing, black and poised, like a crow, over the moon.